Hi, my name is Scott. This is Optional Rule. I do a show every week where I do a live stream of my session prep for my Dungeons and Dragons Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign. That's the current campaign I'm running. I do a once a week session, and this stream is about doing that live session prep so people can talk to me about D&D. We can go through the steps that I use to prepare my session, which is essentially the steps from the Lazy Dungeon Master technique by Sly Flourish. You can find him on the web or buy his book. I think it's Lazy DM Session Prep or something like that. Google it. I'm sorry, I'm a bad promoter. This is not sponsored or anything, but I highly recommend checking out that technique because it's very economic. It's a really good way to focus your attention on what are the vital elements for the for at play during your upcoming sessions. So I find it really useful. I thought it would be fun to have a stream where I did all of that here. It gives me some time to think about what I want out of my next coming session and create some stuff live, and people can see how I create games and hopefully use that in their own session creation if they find it useful. My name is Scott, as I said. So I will be going through quite a bit of original content creation today. I'm running Rime of the Frostmaiden, as I said at the top of the show. Really, the challenge that I'm facing now is we're 4 sessions in and we're about to go into really what is essentially a custom-made scenario that I've come up with. It's forked from the scenario in Rime of the Frostmaiden called Cold-Hearted Killer, and we'll get to that in a second. And other setup for other module modifications that I'm going to make that are essentially whole rewrites. Rime of the Frostmaiden is a great module. The pieces sometimes aren't quite ideal to fit together for what I want out of a campaign. So I've taken on rewriting some of them, adding elements of it. And I'm going to talk a lot about that today because we really have some unique items that we want to get to. So first, I want to say if you have a question, please go ahead and post that down on the tavern wall in the comments if you're seeing this live stream after the fact. It's not live for you if you're seeing the recording. If you have a question, go ahead and bring it up in chat during this live stream here or come to one of the other live streams in the future. I usually do this on Saturdays at noon Eastern time, so please join me for future sessions. Also, this is a brand new channel. I'm just getting sort of started up off the ground. If you could like, subscribe, share, hit the bell icons, do all the clickety-clack things that are necessary in this social media world to help support the channel, it would really be appreciated by me. So thank you very much if you would do that. I want to thank the new subscribers and followers that I've had in the last week. People are slowly finding this channel, and I really appreciate it. I've gotten some more questions this week about do I intend to do anything but live streaming, and the answer is yes. I will eventually do some tutorials and some GM insights and things like that I will post more specific advice on, little 10-minute shows or something. But I want to get used to this format and to the video production process and how this whole thing goes. So that's my trajectory. I do anticipate in a few weeks that I'll start producing additional videos on top of this. So again, welcome to the stream. If you have a question, please say hi in the chat or just drop a question in. I'll be happy to answer those as best I can. So back to the session prep here. So where we are, I'm 4 sessions in. I've been building the players towards this it's an opening scenario in the original module that I've modified quite a bit. It's called Cold-Hearted Killer. In the module, this is pretty much a straight up go find this murderer and kill them in a field, however you can do it. I've really extended that to be the cap to their level 3 adventure. They're at level 2 right now. They've gone, my sequence so far has been, I had a custom opening scenario where they had to trek through the mountains to get to Icewind Dale at all, to get through and I set up some things with Duergar and that threat that's looming. I've completely rewritten that chapter, which I think is chapter 4, 3 or 4. I'll get to it in a second. But I wanted to set the stage for the Duergar and the threat that they're presenting to to Icewind Dale. Now, so the players came through there. They went to Bryn Shander. They opened up the Cold-Hearted Killer quest by encountering an orcish bounty hunter who's dying of old age and wants to catch this killer as a sort of a last thing he can do, but he knows his body is failing him, so he's hired the PCs to do that. I've set that scenario up so that the original killer is working with the head of the caravan, which is Torga Icebane. I set her up as a Tiger Tribe member who had fell out of favor at one time because of a player secret you can get in the module called cannibalism. So she's an outcast of her tribe who's gotten back in now that they're worshippers of Auriel, who's the goddess who's locked this area in a perpetual night and set that forth. So she's out murdering people basically who have offended Auriel in sort of a warlike-esque. I'm not using spell lists or anything like that. Just I'm using narrative magic here, and she's killing people who have offended Auriel and gotten out of these sacrifices that they have to do month to month. So the players are tracking this person down. So in the process, they needed to get a little bit of gold. They did the Foaming Mugs quest, which was spiced up a little bit. Come back from that. That was their that got them to second level. At second level now, they've tracked through some of the wilderness of Icewind Dale to get to Tamerlane, which is one of the towns that they were told that Torga and her caravan had gone to and was last seen at. On the way, I set up some role play. They did some investigation of one of her murder scenes in one of the towns that they passed through. I set up a lot of environmental elements on the road, what it is like to travel in Icewind Dale, so to really set the stage there. They got into Tamerlane, did a little bit of role play, and then they headed into this mine because they heard that some kobolds had taken over that mine and they wanted to earn some extra cash. Now, unbeknownst to them, I set this up as a connection to the Torga Icebane caravan plot because of what I wanted out of this is I wanted them to understand that she has impacted the world as she progresses. These aren't just computer RPG quests that kind of sit there idle until you get to them. The world is a living, breathing thing. So getting there, they run across a kobold leader last session, which went pretty well. It was pretty combat heavy. He was a ghost, and the plot line I set in motion there was this ghost was actually a scholar who'd been studying the tombs in the area. And actually, let me pause that. Let me complete the thread of the Torga Icebane thing. So let me talk about the session prep that I use here. I use the Lazy DM session prep technique, as I said. So you can see I summarize the players, what player traits I'm noticing, what themes I want to use out of this session. In this, I include sort of what do I want out of this upcoming session. Plot threads that are active. You'd have to develop a strong start to start a session off with a bang. I list out potential scenes. I can actually take these out. So secrets and information. So we set down the secrets that they might uncover, the things that are going on in the world for the players to discover as they go along. So I'm going to cut all this out because all of this now is actually on the table. I keep old secrets down here, and this I just paste them down here when I've done it. So I'm going to have to come up with a whole new set of secrets, which what we're going to do in this session, and then list out important NPCs that they might run across, fantastic locations, and I've already said what revealed secrets are. So back to the top. So the theme, what do I want out of this session? So the plot of Torga Icebane, that's her plot thread here. It's pretty simple still. She's a worshiper of Oriel who's using her connection to Oriel to gain power. So she is performing these magical rituals for selfish ends. Her ultimate goal is she wants to get some artifacts to bring back to the leader of the Tiger tribe to really cement her position in the tribe. So she wants to find the tomb of an ancient epic hero of the Tiger tribe named Horan the Claw. And so she wants to go in, collect some artifacts, bring them back to the leader. That's it. So she's been gaining power through these murders. One of the ways she wanted to find this lost tomb was by performing ritual sacrifice, which was part of this murder, to raise a ghost of a scholar who had been studying the location of these temples that died 20 years before, that this person might know where it was. They were famed to have been studying that. So she raises this person's ghost, makes a deal with them that to tell her where the tomb is, and the deal was that she would bind him to this world so that he can continue to do his ghostly obsession, which is study and maintain his journal. So they've gone off, raised the ghost, found that information out, and gone off to the tomb to try to find it and open it. So that's what's happening in the background as the players come to Tamerlane. Now what happened with the ghost is some kobold tribe saw some lights. They came over to find out what was going on. This ghost possessed their leader and now wants to set the stage to go into a more powerful body. And they're not logical. They're a ghost, so they want to possess other people to continue their life stream of studying and maintaining their journal. So they possess the leader of this kobold tribe. The kobolds go to the nearest town, which is Tamerlane, and they invade. They sort of get into the mine, chase the miners out, and now this leader is figuring, how do I get into town to possess somebody more worthy of his ghost, his spirit, to house it. The players don't know any of this. They get to town. All the town knows is some kobolds chase some miners out of the town. They hire the players to go into the mine to clear the mine out. So in the process of clearing the mine out, the players find out and engage this ghost in some conversation to uncover some of these secrets. Now that was last session. That went swimmingly, actually. So pacing-wise, this is really important for DMs. You want to pace your sessions so that they're encountering different types of locations, different types of challenges, if they're not stuck in the same type of encounter over and over again. So the session before last, it was heavy environmental. They had to deal with travel woes. The snow and the survival element of Icewind Dale was a heavy theme for that entire session. And it was also a role-playing session. So this last session, I wanted to change that up. I wanted to get them out of the snow. So they did that. They went into the mine, which was the dungeon, and it even was a mine that had a hot spring in it, so it was warmer. It was a tight enclosed space. They had to deal with much more combat this session. So that pacing went pretty well. At the end, they uncover the ghost. They have a little bit of role play with the ghost. They know that something's up. They realize it must be some sort of ghost. So as they bring down the kobold leader, the body of the ghost pops out of the body and they begin to duke it out with the ghost. I set it up so that the ghost was holding this book of theirs. That's the item that binds them to this world, because it's a CR4 creature against a party of level 2. So it could be pretty potentially deadly. So I wanted to give them a MacGuffin they can use to sort of get over on this the ghost, and that worked out swimmingly. They realized the ghost might have been a problem. They got in the middle of combat with it. Someone cast a bonfire cantrip on the location that the ghost had dropped the book, and they immediately said no, and they cut a deal with the party. So we proceeded into this role-playing encounter with the ghost, where they uncovered all the ghost secret. It told what it knew. And then when we got to the end of that, it turned out even better, because I didn't have any narrative purpose for the ghost anymore. The party was still kind of playing games with it. So it decides, screw it, I'm going to try to possess one of the player characters, which it eventually did. It possessed the player character wizard. There's a big shaft to the Underdark in his mine. So the ghost, the possessed player, now grabs the journal, takes some attacks of opportunity, and starts to bolt, makes a dash action for the end of this shaft into the Underdark. And I told the players because they didn't have enough movement to do it in one round, this ghost looks like they're trying to jump into the Underdark. The ghost wanted to jump into the shaft, let the player die, and then of course they wouldn't die as a ghost, and they would just figure out what to do from there. So It set up this really tense encounter in the party where the possessed player character is trying to move through the players as they get attacks of opportunity, and they're debating, do I hit him with my weapon? Do I grapple them? And it's obviously heading towards the edge, and so it's a big tension moment. At the end of the day, the party wrestled the player to the ground, sort of beat him up with their fist, knocked him out. The ghost not wanting, they couldn't chase the ghost out. The ghost knew it couldn't get away, so it tosses the book over the edge that possesses it. Its spirit has to be within 30 meters of the book. Tosses the book over the edge, which disappears into the Underdark. The ghost leaves the body of the player, follows the book, and that's how we ended the scenario. So it was tense. There was a high stakes involved, and the party seemed to really key in on that type of action. So I loved it. And for a GM too, this is a great encounter, because what this does for me is the NPC isn't dead. So what I can say is later on, since the book went into the Underdark, I'll say that this ghost possesses some drow or some other creature from the Underdark at some point, which will come back at a later session to haunt the players, which will be a great callback. So I'm really looking for that, forward to that. I don't want to pay that off right away. I want maybe 2 sessions to go, and I want to refocus where the story has gone now. Hey, how are you doing, Derry Dice Roller? It's good to have you here. Yeah, I thought it was pretty hilarious, and the players really liked it quite a bit too. Now, this is GM advice. This is something you want to tread very lightly on as a dungeon master. I had the ghost possess a player character because that's an ability of the ghost. I don't want to take that ability away. I want to express the full threat of the monsters that they encounter. However, taking away a player's actions, taking away their agency, is one of the absolute worst, or at least most dangerous things you can do as a dungeon master. I suggest that you do that extremely rarely, very sparingly, and with a player you're comfortable can handle that kind of encounter, and don't play it out. Don't do it for too long. So it did work out well, but if you do this as a dungeon master, I can't express enough. Do it cautiously, do it with sensitivity, and be aware of where your players' interests are. Anyway, so here we are, where they're in the mine. They've uncovered the secret of this ghost. Now they need to go and find Torga Icevane, her caravan. I want to set them up for a collision at the tomb of Holin, and that will do a couple things for me. So first, I want this to be I do in my themes section of my session prep, what do I want out of this session? That helps me think about pacing. That helps me think about different elements of the session and how they sort of fit together. So what I want is I want a role-playing test. These players have a mind now with a couple of surviving kobolds who are going to sort of whine and scrape about what to do now that smart Trex is gone, their master, and see what the role-playing wise the players want to do. Are they cruel? Do they go to some heroic action to accommodate these kobolds? Do they just release them to the wild? I don't know. It should be a small beat. I don't intend to make it big, but I want it to be a role-playing test for the ethics of the character and give them an opportunity for some in-character dialogue. So that I'll open up with that. I want to tease this. I put down tease potential patron a bit more. So where they are is, if you'll see the bullet below, I want to point the way to Holin's tomb, because one of the things they did not get in questioning this ghost was the location of the tomb. Probably the most crucial piece of information. I don't want to gate that. I wanted them to get that information. I got them the full background of it, so I'm going to make it easy to find that. They're going to go into town with the question of, geez, how do we find this tomb somewhere? And I will let them know that there is a scholar in town that runs a library that can probably give them some more information, and this person is just going to tell them where it's at. I'm going to double up on that feature for the game, though, because I want to set the party up with a patron. That's coming in the future. That's this Luxodon artificer who's an alchemist. I'm specifically setting up because for some reason I just like Luxodon for some reason. And I want them to be a patron to give the players a little bit more reason to be out doing these adventures in Icewind Dale. A weakness I feel of the module is it relies a little too heavily on the good nature of the characters to go out and just be doing good. Now, I don't mind that, and the player characters are fairly good so far, but I want to give them some agency. I want to give them a little bit more options. And also, right now it's set up so that two of the player characters who are from Icewind Dale are basically hired guides to the other two player characters who are outside in there to either the wizard is here to find artifacts and gain fame as a wizard in the conclave, and the other paladin player character is a friend of that person who is there to help reestablish her household. So I don't like that employee-employer relationship within a party. So I want to get them out of that and basically all working for the same person to remove that dynamic. It'll also sort of let them, as an alchemist, an artificer alchemist, he can give them limited use magic items, which I love as a DM. One of my big things is I like to tailor specific magic items for player characters to like target them to find it so they really feel like it's something precious and not just like a random bag of magic items that they don't care about. And then I love to give them a lot of single-use magic items, potions, scrolls, things like that, so they can bring a lot of dynamic interaction into individual encounters. So that my way of doing that is to set them up with an artificer alchemist patron who's sort of this very old 90-year-old, which is at the very upper edge of Luxodon's age, I believe, who knew the Paladin's player character's grandparents 50 years ago. So there's a connection there. He's part of the conclave, so there's a connection to Nim. And then he'll uncover this plot line. So this hole in his tomb is another player's plot line of there's a player who plays a barbarian who is a hermit, a barbarian of the wolf tribe, who's a hermit with a missing leg, which I love, who hates wolves. So what I want to this is another danger. So this is a great, let me talk about this as the DM. I have players who've seeded character backstory, but haven't given me a direct player character backstory. So in other words, they've left openings for me to create plot for them, which I love, but it runs the danger of I might create a plot that they're not interested in it. That's a danger of that kind of role play, and I've warned the players, but they seem to be pretty open for it. So anyway, they set up this barbarian who's been a hermit in this cave. They rolled one of the player secrets from Rime of the Frostmaiden, which is they have a spirit who appears to them. It really didn't really say what the spirit was. So what I've come up with is, in the original days of Faerun, there was a faction called Horizon Stalkers who essentially, and you can see here actually in my factions, I'm using notional.so, by the way, for my notes. Under factions, I have a faction called Horizon Stalkers, which is, I can get to it in a bit, but they're an ancient sect that guarded the veil between our prime material plane and the other planes. So creatures that would come across into our plane, they would hunt them down and kill them, basically. So they were guardians of the prime material plane in that sort of feral original sense. I want to set this up so that the character who also hates wolves, they have this intense hatred of wolves, they won't use their own rage. This spirit, I wanted to see if they'll get over that, become comfortable with their rage and become comfortable with wolves. So these Horizon Stalkers have a magic item that I want the players to get into their hands, and that's what Holin's Tomb is. So they each had something called the Mantle of, and the Mantle of the Wild Spirit is what the base item is, but each one has a different wild spirit associated with them. This is the tomb that Torga is going to. She wants to get that mantle. That's the big artifact that she wants to recover. And what this will do is create a nice adventure and cap off to 3rd level on Cold Hearted Killer, but it'll also let players discover the information so this character can proceed along on their own quest, because they're haunted by the spirit, and by connecting them to from a different tomb, if they're able to connect what's happening in this tomb to the place that they live, what that spirit was, they'll know more what's going on. So what the mantle does is it allows you to basically wild shape into a single animal, and it allows you, when you're in that wild shape, you can use the paladin's ability of detect otherworldly creatures. So it's a nice little MacGuffin. It's not terribly overpowered, but it would give him some additional abilities, and it's a nice item. One of the other items in this tomb will be something called Longbow of the Stalker, which is an item that I created in D&D Beyond, and it's basically just this beautifully worked longbow that lets, if you hit somebody with the first arrow, you can, as a bonus action, cast Hunter's Mark on that person as if it's spell. There's a reason why I like to do that, because people will complain quite often about classes in D&D 5th edition being unbalanced. I think that's true in some cases. The Ranger is obviously a great one of them. One of the things I've always just sort of disliked is that they have to use the Hunter's Mark as a spell ability. First of all, it's not that great. There's lots of threads on this why. You can look that up. But if I move that off into an item, they're not burning spell slots in it, and they can use those Ranger spell slots for more interesting stuff rather than just an extra damage buff, which other classes like the Paladin or the Rogue would just get normally as part of one of their class features. So I'm allowing that to sort of go a little bit more easily. So those are the things that are tailored for them. So I have to set up a bunch more secrets. So let me get one other plot item. A lot of plot items today. Sorry, we're 20 minutes in. But this is all the modifications I've made to the module. So that's where so what they'll do is they'll encounter Torga Icebane at this tomb. She has a few workers with her that are odd. I want to borrow that concept of that people in the North have of strangers being potential other spirits. So all of these are spirits of pain and fear that were produced by her murders that follow her around sort of as servants. That I inspired by a warlock class that when you kill somebody, you can produce a shadow or a spirit. I'm going to do something similar to that. So these tribesmen that look like workers that are traveling with her are actually, I'm going to use the tribesman stat block, but I'll add 1 or 2 abilities to give them these sort of fey abilities to make it more horror driven. So she's really a single person with Sefik Kaltro, who's an undead, and then a bunch of these sort of spirits that are following around as well. So that'll be the backstory there. One of the other backstories is, and this is a big problem in Rime and the Frostmaiden, if you're thinking about running it, be aware of it. There's a chapter with a Duergar that I don't know how to say it. It's poorly fit because you have chapter, I think it's 3, where you do Icewind Dale Adventures, and that covers a 4 to 7 level spread. So you do that chapter 3, you get the party to 7th level. Then for some reason, chapter 4, which is this Duergar plot, is balanced for characters of 4th level. It doesn't really make any sense. So, and it has a plot with like a Chartland dragon, and there's this whole stuff. I just don't think it's necessary. It doesn't add anything to the game. It's kind of a Mecha Godzilla thing that comes out of nowhere. And the story behind it, I'm not actually that thrilled with. It's not great because you have to chase this dragon across the area. It's not great. So what I'd like to do instead is I've set up that the Zentarum is trying to take over Icewind Dale. Right now, the Speakers Council, which is the head of the 10 towns, they're all run by speakers elected within the town, but almost all of them have some politically contentious opponent who's come forward. They're backed by something called the Chartland Syndicate, and that's the Zentarum in town. A few years ago, they wiped out all of the Harpers, which is another player backstory. So they are in the process of trying to gain the favor of people in the 10 towns, and they want to take over the speakers' roles and basically run the entire operation. They are backed by the Duergar, by Zardoc Sunblight. His angle in all this is he wants to get a supply line coming out of Icewind Dale of Chartland, other magic items, and if Oriel ever ends, food and things like that, because he has a war going on with Mithril Hall, which is a separate part. So that's his end. So I'll set up some adventure later where they're trying to take down the 10 towns. They'll maybe uncover the mystery of what these people are doing in the Chartland Syndicate and move forward from there. So I need some secrets and so forth like that. So let's start generating those with the time we have left. So first, my strong start. How am I going to start the session with a big bang? So I'm going to have whimpering kobolds in the mine, asking the players what to do now. Do what they do now. So that's basically the kobolds are going to play up on their special ability where they can whimper and cringe and really look shameful and pathetic, and they're going to ask the players to do something for them, and they're not, but that's how they get people to do things for them. So I will see where the players go with that. Last session I set up a member of the Chartland Syndicate in town is a member of the Town Guard. That's the reason why they wouldn't clear out the mine, is because they won't support the town speaker. So they're trying to undermine them. So I've set that plot line up. They're going to go ahead and maybe get to be smug to the Town Guard for not going forward. And they had a little role play with him last time. So I'm going to that's going to be the cold open. And then I also want to tease that patron that's coming. So, and then what to do now with information about the tomb. they can find out there's a library in town run by an artificer. We'll say it's a scholar, by a scholar. Connection to Dohas. So to point the way to Dohas in the future, but right now they'll go to the library. The library will uncover some maps and give some role play opportunities for the players to Nim, especially to interact with this scholar, talk about where these things are going, ask some questions in a more friendly environment than the ghost, and then move forward. So then I want them to go. So potential scenes are in the mine with kobolds. At the library with the scholar. Sounds like a game of Clue. Scholar. Then I want to move them out into the wilderness. So on to Kevin's cairn. Is it Kevin's? Cairn. And then so a bit of an environmental challenge here. One thing running Rime of the Frostmaiden is challenging for me as these distances are so short. The player character movement rates are somewhere in the neighborhood of like half a mile an hour per hour, 1 mile per hour, or something less than that, even if you don't have snowshoes and there's different conditions. On roads, it's a little bit faster. I'm using the adapted, and this is using the adapted travel distances from the Alexandrian.net, which I suggest you check out. And I'll put some notes down in the show notes for that, some links down in the show notes. But so you just go 5 miles over, and that's a full day almost travel. And that's not much distance at all. So I'm going to get them 1 day's travel. I want to get them to the outskirts of the tomb, and then to fight the servants of Torga, and then into the tomb to fight Torga herself. So there'll be 2 fights, and I want to conclude this in 1 session. And I actually think that's actually fine. Skirts, there we go, spelled that wrong. So what the question for me becomes, what pacing do I want here? That's an interesting. So what do I want? So she gets there. I want to set this stage of this creepy sense of these Tiger Tribe nomads kind of sitting around a fire, staring into it, but they're unnaturally still. They're not moving. So what I think I want to do is the first encounter will be the servants plus Sefek Kaltro. So that will be a hard fight. The fight with Torga is more role-playing and sort of justice served. So in tomb with a few servants. Yeah. So all right. So what I'll do is they'll get to the outskirts of the mine, and I've looked up a map or two, I think, already. You can see this here. What I do to find maps, and I highly suggest this as a resource, I hit Pinterest, and I just type in all kinds of things that I might be looking for. This is a very big graphic. You can see it gets very big, but this will be the graphic I use. So this will be the entrance to the tomb. I'll have some of these areas where they're sort of squatting down in these ruins, and with some fire in there, and they're sort of waiting outside the tomb. I'll have Sefek Kaltro and some mix of these CR 1/8 or 1/4 tribesmen or spirits that can sort of harry the party as well. That will be Sefek Kaltro, I think themselves, is a third CR3 creature with some great special abilities. That is a much aligned and I think underappreciated element of this module. People have complained, I think unjustly, that Sefek Kaltro is originally set up to be an early encounter, maybe for a level 1 party, CR3 to level 1. I don't think he's as deadly as people say. Certainly he's a challenge, and if you play him with lots of strategy, he could be very, very deadly. It's possible to have a TPK, but I don't think he's as bad. Anyway, it doesn't matter because they're level 2 now in my encounter. So I'll set this map up for them to use, and they'll go forward here. So back to I have the mine with the kobolds. Back to here, Sefek Kaltro. And so what are the secrets I want to have uncovered here? So first secret will be, I have not put in a Charlin Syndicate secret. So even though that's a plot line, I'll copy it back here because we need new secrets for now none of that will come out in this session unless they throw me a curveball and do something in Tourmaline that I had not suspected, like go after the captain of the guard, who I've established as part of the Charterland Syndicate. Yeah, I don't know. One of the nice things about this Notion SO is I can link things back and forth. So it's kind of like OneNote, by the way. This is my alternative to OneNote, which I enjoy much more. So Charterland Syndicate is conspiring with Zedrock Sunblight. I'm not going to go into that. I've already said it, and it's probably not going to come out. So Torga is, I wanted her to be stuck at this, I wanted her to be stuck at this tomb for some reason, lingering there, or else she would be gone by the time the players get there. Oh, I know what I'll do. Oh, this is a good idea. So what I've set up previously in the narrative, the player who has a connection to this backstory line, their secret was they were a hermit inside an old tomb in Kevin's Cairn. It's a different tomb. It actually happens to be one of the other Horizon Stalkers who was part of the Wolf tribe back in the day. They don't know that. They just know that there's a spirit who's appeared to them, keeps trying to get them to use their rage. They keep trying to ignore it. What this spirit wants to do is pass on the mantle of the wolf to another worthy successor, suspects the player might be a worthy successor, but is trying to get them over the top before they reveal the secret to them. So there will be a similar spirit within this tomb who is unwilling to give the mantle of the tiger to Torga. So Torga is contesting. So it does all kinds of things. It keeps her out of the tomb. It fights with her. She's been pleading to it, making offerings. That's what we'll do. So Torga is stuck in the tomb, unable to move past the spirit of Holin, because he thinks she is unworthy. So she keeps making sacrifices. And other things to him to get his approval. So that's why she's stuck there. She's just night after night performing these rituals, and she's unable to sort of gain his favor. And so that'll keep her around for a little bit of time. Now, the other people with her, they're spirits. They don't care. They want to get out and murder, but because that's the kind of spirits they are. But that's they don't really care that much. That's fine with them. So what they'll do is just wait around outside. I need a couple of traps and MacGuffins inside the tomb itself. And then I need, so what is Holin? Holin might find the players worthy, but won't give over the mantle because they aren't of the Tiger tribe. They aren't of the Tiger tribe. I like that element because what that does is eventually where I want to push the player, or at least offer the barbarian player, is if he wants to get over his player crap, his narrative story about hatred for wolves, him refusing to use his rage and get comfortable with it, that Odrang, which is the player, which is the actual ghost, I have that down here as an NPC, he'll actually give him the mantle of the wolf and let him go forward. So, and that will be an attuned magic item, so it'll take up an attunement slot. I like these backstory things because it's essentially no different than a pretty good wondrous item, but it's linked to their backstory. It doesn't give them extra resources because it still takes up an attunement slot. And I can give other players all kinds of items, which I'll do over time too. All right. So also hidden, I want to also hidden in the tomb is the longbow of the stalker. Now that's a physical item. I haven't decided yet what I want out of this mantle. The mantle of the wild is, I've thought, it's always good to have a physical item. So I've thought to have some sort of great skin. And if you have a suggestion, by the way, drop it in chat because I'm making all this up here. Like an animal skin that they wear, sort of like the, if you look over in the items for sources, Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. If you go into the appendix, I believe you run across a bunch of like the Tiger Tribe they're probably not in here. I can't find. No, that's a different NPC. Anyway, you see their pictures have skins of the tribal totems with them. So wolf will have a wolf tribe with a little helmet thing on. Tiger tribe will have something similar. So I'll have the mantle be this sort of cloak-like skin that they wear and grants them these powers. And again, the power will be to wild shape into a creature of that totem, and then give them some extra senses to detect otherworldly creatures from other planes, which is supposed to be what they're able to do, to hunt these creatures. So it won't be overpowering. It'll give them a single ability. It won't negate druids, which is always a concern I have. You don't want to hand out too many other class abilities because you don't want to dilute their uniqueness in the game. But giving out a single instance of a single expression of an ability really isn't that big of a deal. So I would do it in this one case. So, all right. So Holden's hidden longbow of the stalker. Players have to find it. So it's not guaranteed. So they can search the tomb a little bit more, find some secret entrances. I'll figure out how to run that. I'll probably run the tomb narratively. I'll also probably do a sort of mind's eye theater battle with Torga at the end, because she'll be inside the tomb. And really all I want out of that is sort of a revenge killing and a justice killing. So they'll find her in the tomb pleading with this spirit. That sets up the story of her being unable to get the mantle, and she puts it on. Maybe she takes damage or something like that, and so have the spirit talking to her to understand that there's something here. And I know what I'll do too. So one of the other things I want to tease is I want to heavily connect this spirit of Holin to the spirit that has been pestering Stor, which is the barbarian who's connected to the wolf tribe spirit. So I will also have Holin will recognize the player character. Will recognize Stor and call him Little Cub. Ooh, Little Cub. I like that. And call him Little Cub. And then question, let me get across a narrative point here to relate the relationship between the previous Horizon Stalkers. Call him Little Cub, and I don't want them to have always been friendly. So he'll drop the hint that he and Odrang didn't get along, and doesn't appreciate him in his temple or tomb. Him in his tomb. Come to gloat. He'll say something. Oh, come to gloat. Yeah. So, and Odrang. Odrang will not enter the tomb of Holin. Player won't know this yet, but it's out of respect. He doesn't like him, but he respects him. So the player will see his spirit standing outside, staring at him. And that lets me use a picture I got for this guy, which I really, really like. I should be under NPCs. Odrang, there we go. Odrang Blood Moon. So he'll just see the spirit sort of just staring at him, just like the picture, and standing creepily out, and only the player sees this. So it'll be a nice, hopefully a nice beat to sort of tease that player character moment. All right. And that's it. So then potential scene 2 is back to Bryn Shander, because what I want after this will have brought the party to 3rd level. 3rd level is a great milestone for the party to reach, because they truly get their class abilities. As a game master, I like to pace the game, so about 5 sessions in, we should be at 3rd level. It's funny how different GMs choose pacing differently. There's no wrong answer here. That's what I like. Some GMs think that's too fast. Some GMs think that's too slow. I think it's too slow. But I really like the game 3rd to 6th, 7th level. Past then, I start to lose a little bit of interest. But we'll go further than that in this campaign. But I want to get them to 3rd level because it's a great feeling of accomplishment for the players in the party. They get all their class abilities. They get to select specializations in a lot of cases. I think Paladin chooses their oath. Barbarian chooses their, which path they're going. The Wizard's already chosen theirs by then, and the Ranger gets to choose theirs too. So this is a pretty big moment, and I want to set up downtime after this. So out to Kevin's Karen. Another thing, back to Bryn Shander. Oh, this is good. I hope I can work it in this session. So the setup for Cold Hearted Killer, where they were hired by a bounty hunter who's an aging orc who took under his wing one of the children of the murder victims of Cold Hearted Killer who survived. And it's sort of a Mandalorian sort of scenario, or a lone wolf and cub. They're not a child, but they're young. They're originally I was going to make them 13, but one of the player characters didn't hear that and wanted to romance them, and I was too creepy, so I set them to like 18 or 20. But anyway, this old guy's dying. This person is this tiefling who is sort of taken under his wing, has been taking care of him. He hired the players to go get the cold-hearted killers. When they come back, I want the player, this bounty hunter, to have passed. And that they'll do some role playing, but that'll create some downtime, and then they'll get his old mounts, a bunch of his old equipment to survive. So the milestone here will be they feel like they've accomplished something. They've actually affected the plot. And right now they really haven't done more than a few tasks here, but this will be their first taste in affecting area-wide plot and actually affecting what's going on in the environment. And they'll have a chance to sort of catch their breath, do some potion brewing, encounter their patron. So they're back to Bryn Shander, find the bounty hunter dead, and the tiefling wondering what to do next. So that'll create a role-playing challenge for them to figure out what they want to do with this tiefling. They're not an adventurer. They might choose to drag her around with them, but this is not the environment you want to drag people around with you in. So that actually is pretty good. So I think for a single session, this is more than enough. The players decide what to do with the kobolds. They go back to Tourmaline, collect their bounty because they've got 200 gold pieces coming to them. They'll find out that there's a library in town. They can do a little bit of research on this Tomb of Holland. They can find that. They go to the tomb, encounter Torga and her caravan, fight with them, and cover some items and some of the information from the spirit lying there. And then they need to go back to Bryn Shander to turn that quest in, essentially. They do so, find that character's past, and they have a nice moment to pause there, do what they need to do. And the next thing I'll do after that is sort of get them involved with their patron and sort of begin to open up the overall like area-wide quest. So my chain, if you've been following Rime of the Frostmaiden, there's way too many questions you can do in a single campaign here, or at least that I want to do. So the chain that I'm looking at is this. I started out with my own encounter in the past. Then I went to Foaming Mug's quest, if you know that one. They got the Cold-Hearted Killer quest. During that process, we did the A Beautiful Mind quest. They're going to complete Cold-Hearted Killer, and then they can launch into the next thing. Then a third level quest, I think, and I'm going to do 3 of those. I think the Cauldron one from East Haven looks pretty good. The one from The Mead Must Flow I like. I need to modify that quite a bit, but I think that is a pretty good quest. And then one of the Cher Koning or Sharon Dunaval quests, I'll do that, and those will be the quest that gets them to 4th level, and they'll go on to chapter 3. So I have to tease all of those ahead of time. So that's what this downtime will do, and that's what this patron will do for them. All right, so I need a few things resources-wise to get me through. So let's look at D&D Beyond. This is a great, I love this resource. I know most people know it by now, so I'm sure they haven't. You've seen it, but if you haven't, I just highly recommend it. I have a legendary bundle. It gets me everything I need. So what I want to do for these, I want to do something called reskinning, which is a DMing technique I highly recommend. I'm going to create a new monster here, which are these sort of nomad type spirits that are born out of the victims of Torga Iceveins' murder victims and sort of follow her around as servants. They're spirits of fear, spirits of anger, spirits of loss, something like that don the guise of normal people. But I don't want to create a completely new stat block, so I'm going to use reskin the Tribal Warrior stat block. I thought there was I'm interested in some abilities. I thought there was a Warlock ability where they bring a spirit into the world if they kill it. Now, then that's what I'm looking for really quickly. I don't think I know that one can bring a shadow into this world, but I can't find it, so I'm going to move on from that. So instead, I'm going to use the tribal. What I'm going to use is the tribal warrior. That should monster stat block. They are CR 1/8, which is fine because I want them to maybe be about CR 1/4. So I'm just going to use this straight up stat block, and I'm going to add one special ability to each one. So over in my notes, I'm going to grab this link and I'll create this before next session. I'll add a section for additional NPCs. Well, I'll put it down in the NPC section, important NPCs. Spirit nomads. Holin's tomb. Spirit nomads. So what I want out of this is these are like neutral evil. Neutral evils, fae or undead. Well, if they're born from spirits, let's say they're undead. There's no clerics in the party, so that's a consideration to make. Can they turn all of them away? Use the tribal warrior stat block and give them one special ability for each emotion type. Oh, okay. So here we go. So what I want is I'll just use the stat block for them. So they're not incredibly tough, but I want to give them. So what I'll say is when you get into a fight with them, they have the doppelgangers. Oh no, changelings, unsettling presence ability. I don't want that to be changed. So let me go changeling. Did I spell it right? Nope. Changeling. Change. Wait. There we go. They should have a change. No, there's an unsettling visage. Here we go. So unsettling visage. They can do a DC 13 Wisdom save or be frightened for 1 minute. That seems a little bit much. Creature can repeat the saving throw at end of each turn. That's fine. Actually, I think that's fine. So I'm going to do changing ability, unsettling visage, and I'll paste in that ability. So that lets them. They'll have some kind of wail that comes from them, like a wail of fear, a wail, like some kind of shriek that settles that frightens the party down to the bone. So only one at a time, and I only want to do one at a time. I don't want to have everybody do it and make chain saves, and can so that's a good ability. Actually, I don't think I need to add more. Do I want to add resistances though? No. So here what I'll do. I'll add the zombie ability. This will make them nice. So zombie toughness. So what is this? This is a shape-changing creature that is more like a zombie than a spirit. So they're a special kind of zombie. They're basically that's another thing. So I'll add a secret here. So Torga Icefane. I'm on the wrong side. Sorry. So the secret here is that Torga Icefane has been birthing these servants from the people that she's killed, from the spirits, and she hasn't physically stolen their body, but they're manifesting sort of some copy of them. So she needs to see that these look like the people that have been described as being murdered already, and I've done that for the players. So Torga has been raising servant spirits from the victim she's killed along the way, and those are the spirits of loss. I hate that name. I need a better name for them, like spirit nomad, something like that. I can come up with a different time. All right, so I think that's a pretty good actually set of adventures, especially for a single session. Boy, we've done a lot. Look at all these revealed secrets already. Yeah, so this is great. So the players will deal with the kobolds in the mine, decide what to do from there. They'll go back to the town. They'll get some information on where the tomb is. They'll head back out. And this will be their first real trip to the wilderness to head towards Kevin's cairn. They'll find these nomads camping outside the tomb. That'll let them strategically, everything so far has been sort of a straight up fight where they just come up on something, but this will let them set up an ambush or do something like that to make them feel like the stalkers, like the hunters instead of the hunted. They'll fight with them. They'll get into the tomb. They'll have a small fight with Torga. We can do Theater of the Mind's Eye. They'll encounter some information about the spirit, uncover this whole plot line about the Mantle of the Wild. They'll leave there, maybe stop back once in Tourmaline. That really won't matter. But they'll head back to Bryn Shander, where they'll conclude that whole plot line of the bounty hunter and cold-hearted killer. They'll gain a bunch of equipment that lets them go out to the next stage of their journey with much more confidence. And what I really want to be sure here is not give them, I want to tease additional things, but I don't want to give them another plot, because I really want them to take a moment as a breather, give the, after this session, to give the mage some time to scribe some spells, give some other people time to brew some potions, look into some personal history, that type of thing. So yeah, I think that's it. And the interesting NPCs will be let me talk about fantastic locations in a second. These interesting NPCs that they'll run across will be these spirit nomads, which I need a better name for it. If you have a suggestion for a name, go ahead and drop it in the chat, because I would love something interesting there. All right, fantastic locations. So I've got all of the stage set and the encounters I want. I don't want just like, the Tomb of Holland is obviously a fantastic location. Let me Library of Tourmaline. Library of Tourmaline. And then the Tomb of Holland. I'm probably not spelling it the same. I'm spelling it differently every time I type it out. That's fine. I tend to do that. What you want is, don't just say, I mean, most of the time you can just say you're in a tavern, you're in a town, but the idea of this fantastic locations is to spice up the world, give it something more interactive, tease more story to the area. And so I'm wondering, is this library that the players will encounter this person, I want to set some tone for Doha. So I love this story. I used to work at Emory University at one time in Atlanta. There's a story that the actual library started in the 1800s with a janitor who was drunk all the time. So I'm actually going to use that. The library is a loose collection of poorly kept books in an old, what do I want? An old brewery. There we go. That smells of hops and has old rat. I won't say old rats. That's stupid. But so smells of hops, has a drunkard for a librarian who has a surprisingly good memory. All right, so I'll say it won't be a magical place, but it'll be this sort of old, dusty place with these books. It'll let the wizard player character be sort of aghast at the library not being kept good enough. He'll tease Dohas by saying he gets lectured. He used to get lectured all the time. Used to get lectured all the time before he got too old to travel. Too old to travel. There's some other DM advice, by the way. So when setting up a patron, one of the stumbling blocks that people often have is, why doesn't the patron go do this themselves? And that's something that's really kind of bugged me with players, but it's a question that repeatedly comes up. So I like to set up some in-cane and in-game reason. Why is the patron using the players to do this when they're whatever level they are, 10th level, 9th level? They could easily come and just cast one spell and resolve this situation, or cast Scry, or do something that would make it easily fixable. for as opposed to a third level party who's struggling against minor foes. So in this case, I want to make Dohas an extremely old NPC. He's at that 90, so he's super old, maybe going blind, he can barely see, and it'll be a nice sort of passing of the torch moment. So we'll go with it from there. All right, so that's what they're doing. Dohas will go. He doesn't come around anymore. He's gotten too old to travel, so that'll tease that to the player. They'll know they have to go to Dohas when eventually I pull the trigger on that. And yeah, just let them interact with that environment a little more. The Tomb of Holland. Now, I have a map, as I said. What do I want out of that? That has... I don't even know. So, let's say something about let's start with the architecture. So when I think through fantastic locations, I usually think geography, architecture, magical additions, or other special properties. So that's tend to let's start with geography. So the geography is that it's hidden deeply in a crevasse. I'm not spelling that right, but that's fine. Of Kevin's Cairn. That's not very interesting though. What else is? I want the architecture to be like full on Skyrim. To be full on Skyrim. Lost ruins, like those lost Nordic ruins. So and I mean, what else? What can we add magically that would be in the area that would be somewhat interesting? I mean, this just is a magical horn artifact that blows when the wind, that makes a sound when the wind blows, to sound like haunted spirits, that keeps people out of the area. And it has a number of legends of ghosts. Now, I would love to add something like an encounter with a saber-toothed tiger. Oh, that could be good. So, all right. So what I was just thinking is I would love to add an encounter with a saber-toothed tiger, but I don't want to add to the encounters in the game because I've got enough to go through a full session. So Torga Icefane has killed the spirit guardian, stuck in the tomb. Her people. She has killed the saber-toothed tiger, spirit guardian of the tomb, and her followers are eating it. That's really creepy. Are eating it. So they sit there like sucking out the marrow and doing things like sort of like ghouls. And that will be why. Okay, so for players to gain favor with Holland, they will have to bury the tiger or burn it or something like that with honors, and perform a ritual to summon a new one. Okay. And if they do that, if they haven't found it in the tomb already, he will straight up tell them and reward them with his items. Not the mantle, because they're not from the tiger tribe, but it will let the players know what the mantle does. So it'll set up that with some study. All right, so that's it. They'll come across this tomb. The creepy parts of it will have this sort of horn that makes this haunted spirit thing that goes across that keeps people away. They'll find the dead body of this saber-toothed tiger that was also sort of a guardian spirit that guarded the tomb, that they killed that and they're eating it, and that their ultimate resolution after killing Torga is to essentially heal the tomb, heal the integrity of the tomb by burying this tiger and summoning a new one, or they choose not to and just leave him alone, which is fine. That's up to the players. But I think that the sequence of events is rich enough that we have a full session. All right. We're at our hour. That's quite a bit. I've got another great, what I feel like is a great session here. I am looking forward to running it on Tuesday. I'll let everybody knows how it goes. So this is a new stream, as I said before. If you've made it to the end of this stream here, I really appreciate it. I can't appreciate it enough. I really do hope you think about liking, subscribing, following, sharing this on other social media once I post it. It would really help me. Again, I do intend to do other types of videos going forward, but for now, I'm sticking with the live stream. If you want to, just go ahead and give me a follow on any of the social medias. I'm optional rule on any of them. Twitter is my most active place, so go ahead and give me a follow there. I'd love to get your questions either on the tavern wall down below, on the comments, or if you want to post a question to me on Twitter, please do. I respond to pretty much everybody who sends me a question or asks me anything. I'm a perpetual newbie DM for about 40 years now. Yeah, thank you very much, Dairy Dice Roller. Yeah, like awesome setting. Love the library setting. Yeah, I hope it does come across well. You never know what falls flat with players, so you're always rolling the dice. But yeah, I like it. So that's all you can do. That's the last piece of DM advice I'll actually leave you with. You have to like it. If you enjoy it, there's a good chance one of the players will. Maybe they won't. You're always rolling the dice. But if they don't, we'll always have one person who liked it, which is you. So just take that route all the time. All right. Thank you again for joining me this week. Again, please like, share, subscribe, send comments, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. I'm happy to engage with anyone that I can. I love to meet fellow fans of D&D and just talk about anything related to D&D. Thank you again for following me. So until next week, when I'll be doing my next live stream, I hope you're well. I hope you have a great week in your D&D game. And in the meantime, remember, fun is not optional. Thank you, everybody.